Public participation, Dina Sudan, repellent influence on Paulding County.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Dina. Good morning.
I appreciate this opportunity to speak. I come here today to speak about the influence Propeller Investments is having on our county. The impetus of my remarks today are the controversial Let Paulding Fly billboards. Mr. Chairman, you know, you were right when you said, and I'm paraphrasing, people didn't care to come to meetings at the Board of Commissioners way back when. But look now, the place is crowded, the meetings are filled, and the citizens are here. We are here, just like the airport. So I guess you could say this baby is out too. Propeller has questionable payment practices, bonds, rent, billboards, etc. Brett Smith wants to extort our 3 commissioners to bend to his will and not the will of the citizens. Mr. Austin, the billboards calling for the recall of some of our commissioners are a disgrace and a nasty tactic by anyone. But I talked directly to the Insight Media executive. I was told the billboards with our commissioners plastered all over them for recall were paid for by Propeller Investments. I never mentioned Propeller Investments or Let Paulding Fly. The banner is underneath the billboard, or was. It was made clear to me by the sign company executive their opinion of Propeller Investments. And I quote the executive: "We put quite a lot of pressure on this group to say we want out, and there will be no renewing on our structures," end quote. Mr. Chairman, you work side by side with these 3 gentlemen. These 3 whose names and faces were on these billboards. Why would you allow a New York flim flam man that you invited to attempt to so openly defame and attempt to degrade these gentlemen by putting up those recall billboards? Where is that transparency? Did you know this was done? Do you deny fully supporting Propeller Investments? Be transparent. How dare an outside New York firm come into our county under the guise of Let Paulding Fly, which is funded by Propeller, and erect slanderous billboards that call for the recall and attack our elected commissioners? That had me almost speechless. Almost. But the Airport Authority and Propeller have no need to hold meetings in the Board of Commissioners room. I'm tired of my taxes going to the insecurities of the people ruining our county. Let them provide their own security if they feel it necessary. Mr. Austin, Propeller's Brett Smith said on this very podium, February 8th, that you invited him to come here. So I want to know, who is the CEO of Paulding County? Mr. Chairman, you are Propeller Investments. And where does the buck stop? Lastly, the way I was raised, I was taught by my parents to discern right from wrong. And the most important I received is, you are the company you keep. I feel like, Mr. Chairman, you need to re-examine the company you keep. Thank you.
It's amazing to me that you can stand up and have a discussion. When you did the same thing to me, you started a page, you wrote some nasty stuff. You included my wife in it. And you raise your thumb and you act like that was great. If that's the way you're raised, we don't need people like you in our county.
Well, I'm here and I'm staying.
Well, good for you.
And look on it tonight, because you'll be on it tonight.
I'll ask you to be removed. You wrote some very nasty stuff about me, and I've just let it go.
And it's going to keep going.
Please have her removed.
And it's going to keep going.
Very, very nasty. This is not.
Oh, you haven't seen anything yet.
To have all
You haven't seen anything
that kind
yet.
of discussion. That's nasty, and I don't condone the behavior of the people that put up the billboards, and I don't condone that kind of behavior. It's not a place for us to do that here.
We have had a lot of, Mr. Chairman, we have had a lot of phone calls about the billboards, and it has been, I know there's been attacks made. The 3 of us were on on the billboards. And I think it was done in poor taste.
I agree.
I'm glad that you, I think it was done in poor taste. I don't think that should have been done. You know, what happens when you run for office, when you run for elected position, you go through some tough times, and it's one of those things, anybody decide to run, you really got to make sure your family's on board, because your family gets attached too. There's folks in this room that know that, and on both sides of the aisle, okay? And, you know, I don't think people realize that when things are said out in public, and you got billboards with I believe it's a red line drawn through our faces. I'm actually colorblind, but I was told it was a red line. You know, you got the kids you're raising, you got your grandkids that may ask questions, employees at your wife's work that ask questions, what's going on, and even people that don't know what's going on with those things are asking you questions, and it becomes that's what you're talking about, and it's very frustrating, and it gets you focused on those things, and that's not what we should be focused on. So I'm glad, Mr. Chairman, that you agree. These guys, whenever you put your name in the hat to run, whether you win or lose, it can be a tough time. On either side, somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose, and but our families should be off limits. And when you attack somebody like that out in the open, it puts a lot of pressure on you at home, on your families. And I've got 2 boys that don't quite understand it, and I've tried to explain politics to them. They're learning a little bit, okay? But they really don't understand why somebody's doing their daddy that way. And that's, and they're older kids, but they don't understand. So,
Well, I'm going to ask you this. I hope you don't condone Ms. Sudan's behavior on what she's written about me and my wife either.
I don't condone anybody writing things negative about folks. I don't do Facebook. I stay off of it. This is one of the reasons why, because I try to stay focused on other things. But both sides, you fight the battle that you fight, and this has been a battle that's been going on for a couple of years now, and you fight that battle. I think there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. I think sometimes people choose the wrong way, and that needs to come out in the light. That's just the way it is.
Before we move on, are you done?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, you good.
There seems to be a pattern to this. And I'm going to try to tie it together. I realize I ran for office and I asked for this job. And I deserve from time to time somebody called me up and chewed me out. Right or wrong, I'll accept it. And there's things that you can come at me with, I'll accept if it's on the political level. When you get personal, and there's different levels of getting personal. David had just said something I didn't know anything about. I don't know how they attack me. I'm a little bit like this. I don't pay attention to that. I don't get involved in it. More than being post-war commissioner, more than being a drywall contractor, more than being a guy that runs marathons, whatever, I want to be known as a Christian.
Amen.
And I want to conduct myself like that. And I hope that nobody here or anywhere else in this county can say I made a personal attack on them in a vicious and vindictive way. When I run for office, there was a reporter that chased me for 4 days, wanting to talk to me. I was too busy to stop and talk, and I figured he had foolishness, and I didn't want to get involved. But nevertheless, he finally nailed me down, and I had him meet me out at Burnt Hickory, a home where I was visiting with Eric Creighton. We were sitting on the porch. He came out to interview me. We were doing the interview, and we got to a point where he said, "Mr. Crow, did you serve our country?" I said, I did. And we started to talk about that in my time in the service. My 3-tier review in Vietnam was in question. Just before that, I'd been up here to get my tag. And I never have got a Vietnam War tag. In order to do that, you have to have a DD-214 showing your medals, your campaign medals, where you were. So I had just done that, and I happened to have this DD-214 in the pouch of my truck, unknowing to me what was happening. And as we were going through this conversation, I stopped him. And I said, I don't know what you're looking for, but spit it out. He gave me a document from St. Louis, Missouri. My name is spelled, well, it's spelled properly, but it's put in the wrong order. I don't know how this came about, but he made a personal attack on me and on my military record. There's a lot of guys that's been in the military that are not combat vets, but they're not to be taken lightly. I don't care if you served at Dobbins. If you took and put the uniform on, you followed orders, they sent you to Dobbins, so be it. If you went to Vietnam, so be it. World War I, World War II, wherever you went, Germany, Japan, wherever you went. This is a personal attack that I can't get over. Some of the things said about me, I just took it with a grain of salt. I sort of chuckled at it, but this I don't. There's a pattern here. I asked him, I said, where did you get that paper? He was very reluctant to tell me. And I started naming names. I said, did this person do it? Because I was angry. To say the least, I was angry. He finally told me who it was. And I said, I've never even met the man. Somebody gave him this paper, but he used it vindictively, in bad taste, to say the least. I have guys that I live with, and some I don't live with, that I help carry their bodies. You should never be attacked when you've been in the military, whatever your job was or is. And then we come up with this personal attack on these signs, these billboards. I thought, who in the world would do that? Myself and Vernon Clett was having lunch, and I leave my phone in the truck, but he had his phone in there, and these things come up with a picture of it. It was, to me, if you want the truth, it was comical. It showed great immaturity. Didn't know who did it at that time. But I thought, everybody did this, there's nothing to them. Come to find out, it's the same man that handed this paper out, tried to discredit me. At the last airport authority meeting, there was an individual that's in this room today that has some kind of tough luck. When they walked in, that person had to face a pamphlet with a cover sheet on it with her name, showing she had bankrupt, listing all the bankruptcy items. It blew me away, and I seen the hurt in that person's face, and I thought, what are we dealing with here? How mean-spirited, how vindictive can you get? We're not talking about somebody that was running for office. It's bad enough when you start your lies. Rumor is nothing but a lie when you put a skirt on it and run it out the door and hope somebody tries to chase it. That's all it is. I don't like rumors, and I don't like lies. I love Gary Gully for the fact when there's a rumor out there, you fix to get a phone call from him. If he hears a rumor on you, he's kind enough to call you, so I need to ask you a question. He's the kind of man we need in this county. We don't need people in this county doing business that have no backbone, none, zero. Now, I've been wondering myself, who laid that pamphlet in these seats? Have any of y'all wondered that? It was here. I don't care which side of the fence you're on. If you're opposing or you're for, it don't matter. Right is right and wrong is wrong, and you can't make it any difference. This needs to stop. So I wonder who did put that on seats. Any of y'all want to see this paper? I had it with me. I have a copy of my DD 214 with me. My wife did a write-up in the Dallas area, and I appreciate her. As bad as it was, me coming in the house from time to time, 2 times during my campaign, she is in a fetal position crying. My children have never heard me curse. They've never seen me drink beer. And I'm always praying with them when they were young, and even now. I live my life that way. But I'm going to say this and I'm going to stop. I like to own anything that I've done. When somebody confronts me, if it's mine, I'll own it. My personal billboard, I'm sorry Todd didn't get one. I don't know why he didn't get one. Me and Vernon got one. Mine said multiple ethic charges. No vision for the county. I got a vision. My vision is to unite this county. Let's tie this thing back together. We have destroyed this county with this issue. And it continues on and nobody wants any rest. Ethic charges. I was 2 or 3 days late with a disclosure. There was somebody sent down to the election office to pull out paperwork, file charges, and they did. Then there was an article put out, paid a huge fine. I paid $125. I give more last year to Gary Gulledge's outfit than I did that on fines. For traffic violations. And when they give them to me, I don't ask to get out, I'm going to pay it. Huge fine, $125. The ethics board sent me a letter, said don't do that again. They slapped my hand, I said, I'm sorry, it was human error. There's nobody in this room that's been here, that's been around long, that hadn't laid a bill somewhere and didn't pay it. And it was a little bit late, you got mad at yourself for doing it. Well, I had changed bookkeepers, my bookkeeper didn't get it in on time. It was human error. There was nothing to hide. Our disclosures up here is for the public to see. They can see it. All you got to do is go up online, go down to Deidre, show them to you. If you don't understand something, she'll share them with you. That was the ethics charge. That and the fact that Vernon Collette tried to open our government, made a mistake of having a town hall meeting without doing the proper protocol. It wasn't on purpose. He had no ill intent. And I showed up there. And then later, Todd showed up. No business discussed. Vernon did the talking. I tried to correct him on one question. I was wrong about that, so he straightened me out. But that was the charges that were brought against us. Mean and vindictive. What's the motive behind these things? And I'm big on motive. If you're going to do something, I don't care what it is, what's your motive? I'm on hush now.
Folks, we've all been attacked. And, you know, when you have to explain to your grandbabies the ugly stuff, people lying, I understand. I don't condone it. I'm glad to hear Mr. Pownell you don't condone it either. Anything? We have now Ms. Kathy Helms for the Commissioner's responsibility.
Commissioner Crowe, you covered about everything I was going to talk about. I appreciate it. I just want to say that I know Ms. Wilkins, she's a private citizen. She is not running for public office. What was laid on these chairs at that airport authority meeting last week was totally inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable. The airport authority wanted to use this room for safety because it's supposed to be secure. How did somebody get in here to put that information on these chairs and nobody know about it? And I want to know what you're going to do to prevent that from ever happening again. Because next time, it might not be papers. Thank you.
Stephanie Steele, Transparency and Government.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Since October 2013, there has been a lot of talk about everyone's belief that all government officials should be open and transparent, which I actually completely agree with. Yet, when open records requests were made for a survey that you, Mr. Pownell, have mentioned in meetings in your capacity as my post commissioner regarding the number of citizens in your post against commercialization, no survey has been provided, and the reply from the county states there is no survey. And when another open records request was made for you, Mr. Pownell, and Mr. Crow's personal cell phone records that you both admittedly use for county business, this is the response that was received from Ms. Skipper, and I quote, "The commissioners have authorized me to indicate that Mr. Crow's cell phone is billed directly to a credit card each month, and no bill is received otherwise. And Mr. Pownell states he does not receive billing with phone numbers such as you are requesting, and he does not keep records of his billing. These gentlemen have confirmed this information to me twice. Therefore, I simply do not have any records to produce to you that are in the county's possession, including the possession of Mr. Crow and Mr. Pownell, per their statements." I really just cannot believe that that would be a response. So which is it? Should government officials be open and transparent or not? You cannot have it both ways. This reminds me of an old saying, people who have nothing to hide, hide nothing. In my opinion, we are at a dangerous place here in Paulding County, a place where elected officials are operating under the notion that the end justifies the means, where outside entities are determining our future, and where different sets of rules are applying to different people. This should be worrisome to the entire county. Lastly, I do not appreciate being verbally attacked after I spoke at the last meeting. Not only is it embarrassing for the entire group that you have chosen to be a part of, but it is embarrassing for our county as a whole. Thankfully, to people like you, Mr. Crow, we live in a country where we can all have this kind of debate. But the fact remains that this is an airport, and I agree with you, everyone needs to calm down. Every citizen should have the right to speak in this room without being attacked in any way, and every commissioner should be open and transparent and fully comply with the rules set forth in the Open Records Act. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Steele, before you leave, my phone is downstairs in a lockbox. Be glad to hand it to you. Keep it as long as you like. 1 week, 1 month. My bill comes from Boost Mobile through a Capital One card. I receive no records. I pay that bill every month when it comes in. The county allots me $65 a month for that phone. You have every right in the world to go to Boost, and I'll be glad to go with you. Don't know if there's any numbers on there. If they've got them, be glad to give them to you. To insinuate that I'm hiding something, I'm not. Be glad you can have my phone. I'll go with you to Boost Mobile. We'll do whatever you want to do. You can, I can show you my bill every month, but I don't receive any statement. Not with this particular service.
I'll be glad to go with you. But Mr. Crow, I know a lot about computers, and your cell phone company has the records.
That's good for you, and we get them, and then when you get them, I want you to report back to this body here what you find on them.
Be glad to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Steele, I'd like to, for one, you have citizens on this issue that come up from either side. That support the commercialization is what it's boiled down to, is what our fight is, or support the airport. But I think as it is, support the commercialization or not support the commercialization. Ms. Steele, I appreciate your efforts to come up here, talk to us, because anybody that's ever come to the podium and spoke in a meeting like this, it's not a fun thing. Trust me, most of y'all out there haven't done it. And it's a little tense, and you're coming up here, and whether you're throwing good darts or bad darts, it doesn't matter. So I appreciate you taking the time to do that. I really do. I gave Ms. Skipper the honest report. My cell phone bill does not name any kind of numbers. It just does not do it. Now, can that happen? Maybe so. But my bill does not do it. I've sat up here for the last 2.5 years. I've had papers waived like this that said to do open records on things, people trying to tie us with folks that are out there supporting this effort financially. And I can tell you, I don't have ties to that company. I don't. Trust me, I don't. I've said it over and over and over again. The open records has been done on emails. It's not happened. I don't think that company would have ties with us. Why would they do that? They're smarter than that. People have asked for open records concerning different things to try to tie us with somebody. The bottom line is this: there's not any. There's no ties. And I'm wore out with somebody doing it. I would love to give you something that you want, but I don't have nothing. There's not any ties. So I appreciate you and your efforts as a citizen, because as a citizen, whether you support this or you don't support this, we got a couple things coming up in Post 1 where I've got good friends of mine that want one thing done, and I've got good friends of mine that want another thing done with the same thing. I know that I can't make those two groups of friends happy. But the bottom line is this: one, I'm thankful I'm not Post 1. Okay? But at the end of the day, you talk about it, you have meetings, you have whatever, you come out, you do it right here in the public eye. And at the end of the day, we have to vote on what's going on. I appreciate so much, Ms. Steele, you coming before us to talk. Somebody asked me the other day, they talked about running, they said, "Could you give me any advice?" I said, "Yeah. Whatever you tell." Mr. Austin was like, "Yeah, don't run." Can you give me any
Run, Forrest, run.
Run, Forrest, run. Good grief, run. Can you give me any advice? And I said, "Yeah, whatever you tell one breakfast club, tell the next one. And whatever you tell the one on Monday, tell the same thing on Wednesday. And whatever you tell this person, tell that person. Do it." Let me tell you what I've learned about elected position, and I've been dealing and dabbling in politics for a long time. This is my second term. I'm in year 6. We take our voting rights, the people in this room take their voting rights very serious. We get to go vote. And we used to go behind the curtain. It's very private of what ballot we pull at different times, and in November we get to pick what's on there and do what we want to do. Now it's not a curtain, but it's got some shields up, and we get to get in there and we get to push the button of our person, whoever that is, and we get to walk out, and we might tell our wife who we voted for, we might tell our kids, we might tell our friends, and we might not, but we have that option to do that, whether we want to tell them or not. We have that freedom, and I think it's great. All right? I voted early last week. I got to do it. I got to take my son that just turned 18, first time to vote. I got to be with him, and we voted, and I explained to him that you have the right to keep this private. You don't have to share that with anybody. It's something that we've gotten with the freedom from the men and women that have fought for years. We get to vote. We don't have to tell you. So let me tell you what elected office is. We get to vote, you know. So anybody thinking about running, tell everybody the same thing at every breakfast club you go to. And remember that when you go to vote, whether you're sitting here or at a council meeting, or whether you're sitting downtown Atlanta, there's a record of your vote. And it's one of those things that you no longer get to go behind the curtain, and you're sitting right here. So you want to know what's tough about it? That's what's tough about it. You got to stand up and decide where you're going to be. And no matter what you told everybody when you're running, truth comes out right here. It comes out. And that's the way it is. Ms. Steele, I know we're on different sides of the fence with this. I thank you so much for you coming to speak to us. You're always welcome, whether you're for or against, because I hope, my hope and prayer is that city councils, board of commissioners, states, federal government, FAA, any kind of organization, I've learned the most important thing is in life sometimes is learning what not to do. And I hope that people pay attention to what happened here the last few years and have learned what not to do. What not to do. And so my hope and goal and dream is that we can get on board and focus on the things that we agree with and run with it. The citizens, all of us. And Ms. Steele, that you and I and these other two commissioners that you're upset with because we don't agree, we'll find something in common that we can agree on and be on that team. Because if politics doesn't do anything else, through the years you'll be surprised who will be on your team, who wasn't 5 years ago, now they're on your team. So thank you so much. I've got one more thing that I'd like to do, Ms. Steele. Thank you so much. Mr. Lyons, could you help me with something? Could you come up in here and help me with something? You know, there's a lot of things that I may do that people don't agree with. And I've said it 100 times, the business of the county should be done right here. You can't go and get head nods. You can't go and do votes in 2012 and not let the public know about it until 2013, a year later. We have been attacked by billboards. We have been attacked by other things that are being worked on right now. We have been attacked in social media. I don't agree with it from any side. Those of you that support the commercialization, we don't need to be attacking anybody. Those of you that don't support it, we don't need to be attacking anybody. We all live here together, and we need to consider ourselves citizens of Paulding County and the family of Paulding County. And we don't need to have outside influences come in and do things to hurt us. Because at the end of the day, we're the ones that are left here, living here together. And we've got a lot of great things going on in Paulding County. We do, and it will continue. But we've got to be open, honest, and transparent with one another. All the time. Open, honest, and transparent. Last Wednesday, there was an airport authority meeting. There were things put in the chairs there, that were improper. I don't agree with it. I'm glad that this board up here 100% does not agree with it. It shouldn't be done. It's wrong. I had several citizens ask me, and I committed to get to the bottom of it. I'm not going to be one of these people that you have to come find to get to the bottom of it. They asked me, and we're going to let it come out. This kind of stuff should not be going on in our government building, and our citizens that come up here to speak should be protected, and everybody should be welcome to speak when they speak, and should not be attacked. The attacks that were made on Ms. Wilkins were uncalled for, one, unprofessional. She is a neighbor. She lives here in this county. She's a Paulding County citizen. These kind of attacks cannot happen. The information that was put out there was about a bankruptcy. We actually have maybe a presidential candidate running right now that has said that that person has bankruptcies. And for the information that was put on the chairs was incorrect. It was wrong. It's been out there. People know about it. Can you, the top middle one, can you start with that?
Is there a motion or anything we want to do about this? I mean, what wasn't on the agenda, I need to know what
I'm answering back some of the citizens that have said what they said. Do you guys need a motion to push the button on this video?
Chairman, what do you want?
Okay.
Okay, council, thank you.
Brett Smith. But we wanna do business with this guy.
Let's watch the video. I think there's a video of the lobby right out here. Top right corner maybe. That may be after the fact. You can go back and go to this commission meeting room, please, sir. I'm sorry for not giving you notice. You can back it up to about 8:16, 8:15, okay, just right there. See if you can go on the commission meeting room. The right one, well, I don't think you need the right one.
What do you do with him, David?
Hang on, folks, I'd like you to, I'm asking for everybody to watch the video. Please. Just keep it right there, we'll let it continue to go. Just let it continue, please. Just give me a couple more minutes, Will. I think it'll be about 2 more minutes. When I was asked by several citizens concerning this, I could see how they felt for the citizen that had been attacked. I could also see how the citizen that was attacked felt. You only know that when that's happened to you before in the past. It's not a good feeling. Some of us that are elected officials, we put ourselves out there for that. The citizens of this county did not, neither did our families. things like this should not happen inside our building. Thanks for being patient. We're almost through.
Showing his raisins.
Okay, Mr. Lyons, we're done.
Those aren't dumb raisins.
I made a commitment to several citizens that we would find out. Sometimes there's things that come out that you don't want to talk in the open, just like at the dinner table at home about bad grades. That kind of stuff shouldn't be going on inside of our building. We need to find common ground that we agree on. We need to focus on that common ground. If we want to heal and unite this community, we need to do it. We don't need to have any outside influence running on this, doing this kind of stuff. I'm wore out with it. You're wore out with it on both sides. Our families are wore out with it. We're tired. It's time to get on to work together to make Paulding County a great place to live. That's what it's time to do. Whatever we got to do, that's what it's time to do. Are there bumps in the road? Yeah, there were bumps in the road about this park that's going into my district that I'm over just so excited about. There's bumps in the road on the reservoir. There's bumps in the road, there's bumps in the road, there's bumps in the road. But working together and keeping it out front, doing it out front, we can continue to make Paulding County a great place to live. We need to focus on those kind of things, folks. We need to focus on, we all agree, litter needs to be taken care of. There's things we can do to bring business and families into this community and make this a great place to live, which will make it a great place to work and people want to come here. Working together, we can do it. Stuff like this is uncalled for, unprofessional, and it does not need to happen anymore in our community. Thank you.
Amen.
This is the same man that attacked my military record. This is the same man that hung that sign out there for my children, my grandchildren to see for no reason. What's your motive? This is the same man that attacked Sue Will. Sue, you got anything you'd like to say?
I do. Thank you.
Go to the podium.
Go to the podium.
Now, nobody,
I think the chairman needs to recognize
Oh,
that
please.
person.
Get over
would
it.
you?
Showing your raisins.
Thank you. Needless to say, I was totally blindsided and pretty upset about it. I felt it was a very desperate move on whoever, did it, on their part. I also felt it was used to try to discredit me and possibly intimidate me that day because I was on the agenda to speak. I was on the agenda to speak about the broken contract, the contract that he breached when he did not make the bond payment, although that was not on the agenda. I suspect, though, that possibly somehow he found out. At any rate, it is not the first time my bankruptcy, which was a result of my husband having his leg amputated, losing his job, me losing my job to take care of him. The 4 surgeries he had only 8 months later for the following year, losing our house, which is what ultimately brought us here to Paulding County. My sister was loving enough to lend me money to buy a cheap foreclosure, and that's what we did. And we chose Paulding County because we just adored the rural atmosphere. So that was back in February 2013 that I had to file for bankruptcy. Larry Reinhardt in 2014 smeared that information all over Facebook. So it is not the first time I was dragged through the mud. The thing that bothered me the most, other than the despicable way it was handled, was that Mr. Smith accused me of being investigated for fraud. There's no truth to that at all whatsoever. And that's what I want this community to know and realize. Everyone can appreciate bankruptcy, understand it, especially under our circumstances and what the economy did to so many people. But investigated for fraud, crossed the line. So I appreciate that you were willing to go to bat for me, but it wasn't just for me, it was for all the citizens, because we can't allow this sort of violation to happen, especially in this room. We expect to come here and there to be an element of safety. It doesn't get done against any officials here, it doesn't get done against any candidates, and it certainly shouldn't get done against any citizens. So thank you very much for taking care of us.
Spent much longer time talking about other stuff other than we've got our county. Do I hear a motion to go into executive
Mr.
session?
Chairman, can I say a word since I was exposed on that long film there? I'm the stupid idiot, I guess. I didn't mean any harm in it. There certainly wasn't a bomb in it. But all the long length of the cat that was sitting there, come in the door up there and sit down in the front row with a bag. I'm glad to tell you what was in that bag. And the man, it was a couple of books on World War II that I had. That a friend of mine, we were discussing them, and I had told him he could, I'd give them to him or loan them to him to read, and I brought them to the meeting to give to him. He's usually at the meetings, and he's here today, and I'll leave it up to him to say I saw him later and gave him the books.
We never tried, did you? We never thought it was.
Mr. Tibbetts, you're not
To
calling.
read,
You're not calling.
and that's my explanation of that long stretch of a movie that you have of me. And I have no apologies to make.
Well, that was no
I did it.
explanation, that's
There was
No,
something wrong. I did it through ignorance.
No, you
did nothing wrong.
You didn't do anything wrong, and I appreciate you getting to the meetings, and I appreciate you getting there early to get a front row seat.
We are making that years old, I have a good reason for sitting close to the door.
I understand.
About that, I'll be glad to go where I be paying for that weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.